Hey everybody, it's Krista from Hilltop in the Valley, and I am so excited for Thanksgiving, which is coming very soon, and I've been thinking about what food we're doing for Thanksgiving. One of the favorites in Thanksgiving is the dinner rolls. I don't know about you, but I remember Thanksgiving as a kid, and I would always want to go for those Hawaiian dinner rolls. They were just so sweet. They were so airy and starchy and moist and all that good stuff. But I really cannot take that now. I know that my body can't take that. And since going into using the Einkorn flour, I've been, of course, trying to figure out, okay, how can I make the things that I'm going to like, that I'm going to enjoy, and especially for occasions like Thanksgiving and the other holidays in the year, what can I make that will just bring back those great memories and make it feel like this is the tradition I want to have? And so today I want to share with you some einkorn dinner rolls. Now, because einkorn is a little bit more dense, it's got the protein in it, and its gluten structure is so much weaker, it's not going to rise quite the same as that fluffy bread that you might be used to purchasing from the store. It will be more dense, and you can know that is because you're getting way more nutrition and way more protein. But the flavor is going to be just as good. You're going to enjoy this. It's going to be sweet. And I've also made these into a pumpkin dinner roll. So this is my go-to to bring on that sweet goodness that the kids are looking for, that I am looking for, to go with either when we're doing soups or if we're doing a special occasion dinner such as Thanksgiving. This is what I make. And they have loved these. I've loved them too. And I'm going to share them with you today. So this recipe is also a recipe that you can find in the updated version of the Einkorn for a Cozy Winter ebook. If you have not checked that out, do so now, because it is only going to be available until November 28th, and that is when we're going to shut it down. I'm going to focus more on the holidays, and I hope you are too. Check out the Einkorn for a Cozy Winter ebook if you are looking for great recipes to make your home and kitchen cozy this winter, whether in the holiday season or if it's cold outside. These are recipes that bring you guys inside the home, help people to gather around and have something amazingly nutritious and tasty while you guys are talking with each other and enjoying each other's company. First off, I want to let you know about these dinner rolls. They are made with sourdough starter. I don't use yeast in these. I try to avoid yeast as much as possible. My own body, personally, I don't do well using commercial yeast in my body. And I know a lot of other people don't either. Using commercial yeast can often encourage yeast overgrowth in the body. And so if you tend to lean towards struggling with some kind of yeast overgrowth, whether it's candida or if you're having multiple infections like bladder infections or athlete's foot, all sorts of things come under that umbrella, then commercial yeast is not the greatest thing to go towards. And that is one of the reasons why I try and use sourdough starter in my baked goods as much as possible, because not only is sourdough great for breaking down the hard to digest parts of the grain, but it is a wonderful alternative to using commercial yeast. These dinner rolls, you'll also notice, are using pumpkin, and there's a few different reasons for the pumpkin in these. And first of all, come on, it's fall right now. Pumpkin is a great flavor in fall because, of course, this is the season for pumpkins. But there's a few other reasons why these rolls use pumpkin puree in them. Okay, let's go over this. So first of all, pumpkin is a great binder. Now, if you look back towards the Great Depression or World War I, World War II, if there was a time when people were not able to use eggs as much as they wanted to or needed to, then they would find alternatives. You can look back at recipes from those time periods and see that people were starting to use alternatives in baking cakes. It's very interesting to see all the different alternatives that people used. But pumpkin also helps to be that same binding agent as like an egg would. Okay, next, pumpkin adds hydration to dough. It is full of hydration inside of it, just as if you were using like applesauce or something like that. And so it's a great way to just add the hydration into the rolls. The final reason is that pumpkins add sweetness. Now, it's not going to be adding a ton of sweetness. Obviously, using a half a cup of sugar is going to add way more sweetness than just putting pumpkin into the roll. So this recipe does use sugar in it to sweeten the rolls, but along with that pumpkin flavor and the sweetness that comes from the pumpkin, that taste of the rolls is going to be so much more sweet and tasty. It's going to be so much more flavorful than if the pumpkin did not have the sweet flavor to add to those rolls. That is one of the reasons why I love it. Before we get started, I also want to make sure that you know that you can find this complete recipe as well as all of the extra information for tips for making these, for how to store them, how to reheat them, all that kind of stuff at the blog. And the link is right below in the comment box area. So check that out and go there and get the entire recipe, and you can print it out and keep it in your kitchen with you. Right now, let's go ahead and get started and see how this works. This recipe is a really simple recipe. It is one of those that it's not like a bread where you have to knead it over and over, and it's really just you put it together and you set it aside, and then you bring it together again to bake it. And so we're going to start by mixing all of the ingredients together. You're going to use the sourdough starter. You'll mix that with your egg, your sugar. I use the coconut sugar. I still am not sure if I'm pronouncing coconut correctly. Coconut? I'm pretty sure. You'll also add in your apple cider vinegar. That will help with the rise of the bread as well. And then you'll put in your pumpkin. It almost reminds me of making pumpkin pie, if you actually make pumpkin pie. All right, so after you've mixed all that together, go ahead and put in your flour. We're gonna use all-purpose einkorn flour. And the reason for this is because einkorn is already heavy on protein and its density and all that, like I talked about. So using the all-purpose einkorn is going to take out a lot of the bran. You're going to take out a lot of the extra stuff that weighs it down. You will be taking out some of the protein when you take out the whole grain portion of it. And when it's left to be all-purpose flour, there is still a lot of nutrition in it, but it's not going to have quite as much of the heaviness. And so using whole grain is just going to make them even more dense. That's not what we're going for with these rolls. So I stick to the all-purpose einkorn flour for these rolls. And then at the end, I sprinkle on my sea salt and I mix it all together. It should slowly come into a ball of dough. At this point, make sure it is a complete ball. Cover it up with a damp cloth or plastic wrap, and then you're going to set it aside into a warm area. And when I say warm area, I don't mean like 100 degrees. I mean like a 70-degree area. You can put it in the kitchen overnight. You can put it next to your wood stove, not too close because that does tend to get really hot overnight, now that I think about it. But you know, you want it to be like a good room temperature area. I like to do these overnight because it gives them plenty of time to rise. And with this dough, it is very important that you give it the time to rise. I didn't mention it earlier, but I do want to say also, you want to make sure that your sourdough starter that you're using is active. The best way to do this is to make sure that you have been consistently keeping on the feedings before using it. So that means every day for like 4 days before, you are trying to make sure that you're feeding it each day. And that will make it so much easier for when you feed it about 4 to 8 hours before making this dough, that you will be able to just get the sourdough starter active quickly and being very strong to use for your dough. That is one of my tips for, especially when the holidays are coming. If you have not been on keeping your sourdough starter consistently fed, try and do that during the holidays. It is one of the best times to keep on your sourdough starter and to make that habit is during holidays when you're going to be wanting to use it more. So after your 8 hours are up, or for me, overnight, It's okay if it goes a little bit over 8 hours. Don't worry about it. It will be fine. So on a slightly floured surface, you will make these into approximately 12 rolls. This makes about a dozen, depending on how much your dough has risen. And I like to fold my dough. If you have not heard of this folding process before, it's just like it sounds. You basically try to flatten the dough a little bit and then you fold it over on itself. If you want more information on this process, you can check out my biscuit making video, and I go over it there. I go over it on some of my breads, sourdough garlic herb bread. That one, I believe I go over the folding process in that video as well, and the bread is really good too. But check out those and you'll see a little bit more of that folding process in action. So I would just fold this dough a couple times and then go ahead and roll it into a ball. If your ball is starting to slouch, I would roll it in a little bit more flour. Get a little bit more flour in there so it's able to hold its shape. We don't want these rolls to just flatten like cookies. So you're going to put these rolls onto either a parchment lined baking sheet, or I like to use like a glass casserole dish, and you can grease it. I've done that too, or you can line it with parchment paper. Then you'll put a towel over them again, or your plastic wrap, and you'll put them in a warm place to rise. Sometimes now that I'm getting ready to bake them in the oven, I'll actually put them into a little bit of a warmer spot. So like if you have a wood stove that stays more like 75 degrees, closer to 80 degrees, I might put those right there. And these are going to sit here, and you're going to let those little balls rise for about 90 minutes. Now, as those are rising, after about 60 minutes has passed, you're going to go ahead and turn on the oven to preheat into 425 degrees Fahrenheit. After the 90 minutes is up, you're going to bring your rolls back over, uncover them, and then you'll go ahead and bake them in your oven for about 15 to 18 minutes. I don't know about you, but after Thanksgiving, we'd always have extra dinner rolls. And the day after Thanksgiving, we would make everything out of those dinner rolls. From like, they'd be breakfast for us, they'd be lunch, we'd be putting turkey on them for little sandwiches. And I just have all these wonderful memories of the dinner rolls after Thanksgiving or Christmas. And these ones I have enjoyed no less. I have made them into toast to eat with my breakfast. I have ate them plain at breakfast time, just put some butter on them and then toast them. But these are so wonderful, not just for a gathering, but I love having leftovers. And so double this recipe if you want leftovers. I do enjoy summertime, but when autumn comes and all of the harvest that comes with autumn and the time indoors as well as the time outdoors, I do love to gather around a good pot of soup and some bread and just be able to enjoy time with people so much more. So for whatever gatherings you are enjoying this season, I hope that this will be a great addition to those gatherings. I will talk to you guys again soon, and happy Thanksgiving.